It's time to make it, just give it a try. 'Cause you can make it like the old fat guy.
Welcome to this episode of You Can Make It with David Farrell, the old fat guy. Today I'm going to make a great dish, some Memphis ribs. What Memphis ribs mean to me are ribs that are cooked without a sauce, not like the sticky, saucy ribs we're used to, but rather ribs that are cooked with just a herb seasoning over them that gives them a nice rub, a nice flavor, and then you have barbecue sauce on the table that you add if you'd like. I'm going to be doing back ribs today because they cook a little bit faster, and she who must be obeyed likes back ribs, so that's a very good reason to make them. To start making Memphis ribs, you do need a Memphis rub. Now you can go to the supermarket and buy a bottle of Memphis rub, or you can make your own. I like to make my own, and here's how I make my Memphis rub. I have right here 30 milliliters or 2 tablespoons plus a teaspoon of paprika. I have 25 milliliters or 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. I have 12 milliliters or 2.5 teaspoons of garlic powder. I have 6 milliliters or 1.25 teaspoons of black pepper, 1.25 teaspoons of ginger, and 1.25 teaspoon of onion powder. And here's what I really like in my Memphis ribs is a touch of herb flavor. I have here 4 milliliters or 3/4 teaspoon of oregano and the same amount, 4 milliliters or 3/4 teaspoon of thyme. Now on this particular occasion I'm using some oregano and thyme from Curlin, a company that brings in herbs from Greece. It has a really wonderful flavor. They've just been introduced to me. And I think it'll add a nice herb touch to my Memphis ribs, and I like that. So now that we've got all the ingredients, to make the rub, you just basically put them in a bowl and mix them up. There we go, Memphis rub. So I've just got to get my ribs ready to be rubbed, then I'll be with you in one moment. So I've got a nice rack of back ribs out, just a small one for the missus and me. We don't eat as much as we used to. And the first thing I like to do is take the silver skin off the back. And I just get a knife, and I've just dug up one corner of the silver skin. And then if you grab it with a paper towel, you can just peel it off. Sometimes it comes off in strips like this. That's fine. Just grab another piece. There you go. Give it a grip with the paper towel and peel it off. I just find taking the silver skin off lets the herbs work their way into the pork more easily. So now that I've got the silver skin off, I want to give this a good rub with my Memphis rub. Now it's really important that my porky contaminated hands don't touch the rub, or the whole batch would have to be thrown out because it would be contaminated with possible germs. So I just take a teaspoonful like that and sprinkle it over it, and the pork has never touched the rub, and I can just rub it in. And just give it a little bit, another half a teaspoon there. Get down there. So don't let the teaspoon or the rub get back into that bowl after it's touched the pork. Do the same thing on the other side. There we go. Now you notice I didn't put on a huge amount of rub. That's because as it's cooking, I'll be layering more rub onto it. So there we go. That's just going to sit in the fridge now, uncovered for between 3 hours to overnight, because I like it to set up a good dry surface before I smoke it. I'll see you in a few hours. I've put the ribs in a 230-degree smoker, and I'm using oak for my smoke. I'm going to cook these for an hour at 230 degrees. You'll note that I have my probe from my ThermoQ remote thermometer in the ribs because I cook these ribs by temperature and not time. So we'll let these cook for an hour. The ribs have been in the smoker for an hour, and I'm going to give them a brush with a glaze. The glaze is made up of 125 milliliters or 1/2 cup of cider vinegar and 2 tablespoons of prepared mustard or 25 milliliters. I'll give the ribs a good brush with the glaze. Then I'm going to sprinkle about 5 milliliters of the Memphis Rub over the ribs. I'm going to flip the ribs and give them another brush and another sprinkle of the rub on the other side. The ribs will go back into the smoker for an hour, and I'll give them one more brushing of the glaze and the Memphis Rub. And then we'll cook until the internal temperature of the ribs is between 185 and 190 degrees Fahrenheit. As I mentioned before, I cook these ribs to temperature and not by time. These are back ribs, and I cook them to an internal temperature between 185 and 190 degrees Fahrenheit. With these thinner back ribs, that only took about another 45 minutes. It could easily take an hour or more if they were thicker spare ribs. The main thing is to get it to that temperature. Then you'll give it a brush with the glaze and another sprinkle with the barbecue rub. Flip them and give them another brush with the glaze and sprinkle more of the Memphis Rub over it and smoke for another 40 minutes. This just helps set the surface for the last application of glaze and barbecue rub. I've pulled the ribs out of the smoker and they're all ready to cut up. I like to cut my ribs back ribs into just a couple of rib portions. You can see the nice color in them. They're all well cooked and quite tender. Just cut them up. Now I'm going to cut one off the end just to taste right now so you can see what it tastes like. Beautiful color, nice bark on it. Nice smoke ring in there. I got a feeling it's going to be absolutely delicious. So let's take a bite. Perfect bite off the bone. I love the herb flavor. It's really delicious. These are great Memphis style back ribs, and the best part is you can make it.
I have a good woman, I ain't good looking, but I do some cooking, I'm the old fat guy. So use that oven if you want some lovin', be like the old fat guy. Be like the old fat guy.